Hello everybody and welcome back to my series where I talk about classical mythology while I crochet. Today we're going to talk about Penelope from the Odyssey, Odysseus's wife, and I really love her story. So it's really hard not to tell the whole plot of the Odyssey. I can if you guys really want. I'm sure that'll be useful to someone who's currently studying it. I recommend watching this video first because if we pick up right after that, Odysseus goes off to war and Penelope is left to raise Telemachus. 10 years of war pass and then the men start coming home, but eventually it gets to be a point where everybody's gotten home but Odysseus. Odysseus is held up because he pissed off Poseidon. That is another story for another day. And then he gets trapped on the island of Ogygia with Calypso, a sea nymph, who has him under a spell and wants him for a husband. Meanwhile, because it's been so long and Telemachus is still too young to take the throne, all of the surrounding noblemen come, offer gifts, and try to win Penelope's hand in marriage to get the kingdom of Ithaca. And Penelope does not want to get remarried at all. She tries to hold the suitors off as long as she can, until finally she says, I will pick somebody after I finish a funeral shroud for my father-in-law, Laertes, because a man of such nobility should not go to his final resting place without any covering. Come on. Penelope will weave by day, and then every night she undoes all the weaving that she did that day. And she carries on this way for 3 years, holding them off until finally a servant gives her up. The whole fact that she came up with the plan underscores why her and Odysseus are such a good match. He says it himself, so I'm going to read from the translation. No finer, greater gift in the world than that, when a man and a woman possess their home, 2 minds, 2 hearts that work as one, despair to their enemies, a joy to their friends, their own best claim to glory. And the word in Greek, I'm not even going to attempt to say it, it's this, but it means of the same thought, of the same mind. And they both have this witty, sly, sarcastic, clever sense of humor and way about themselves that is so well matched. We're going to fast forward a bit to when Odysseus finally gets home. Athena puts him in disguise so that he's safe from the suitors for a minute while he comes up with a plan to get back his kingdom and get back at these men who are eating up all of his stores. I mean, they have been for like 4 years now, just eating up everything, drinking up all the wine. Meanwhile, just playing discus and throwing spears in his yard. He gets to talk to Penelope in disguise, and he pretends that he saw Odysseus himself when Odysseus was on the way to Troy, which warms Penelope's heart, but at this point, she doesn't believe he's coming back. She's just become very dark humor about it. A line she keeps repeating. It's not as funny in the Greek. The translation is, I keep calling it destroy, because I can't think of that city without being mad. And the Greek is Kakilios, bad Troy. It's not as funny. Some people are able to see through Odysseus's disguise, and Penelope is questionably one of them. She tests him after this story and says, what was Odysseus wearing? And Odysseus happens to describe an outfit that she had packed for him herself. So there was a little bit of, I'm gonna see if you're really telling me the truth or if you're just trying to butter me up. So by the time Odysseus had gotten home, the suitors had gotten so bad that Penelope can't hold them off any longer. They were making plans to unalive poor Telemachus, and she needed to just make sure she could just end all of this suffering for everybody. She tells them the winner of a contest will be her husband, and the contest, she said, is one that she knows is very hard to accomplish. She takes one of Odysseus's bows that is hard to string, and she tells them, you have to string the bow and then shoot it up through 12 lined up axes. There were rings on the handles of the axes, and they had to get it through the rings. None of the suitors are able to do this, and Odysseus, still disguised as the beggar, asks for a shot. Penelope is actually encouraging of this, and the suitors are not. They don't want this beggar in the contest. They don't want him to win. And Penelope says, if he wins, then I'm going to clean him up and he's going to be my husband. Eventually, a plan unfolds where Odysseus gets his hand on the bow, he shoots it through the axes, and then he unleashes it on the suitors, along with Telemachus, who has his sword. After they've taken care of the suitors and all of the unruly house servants, they have someone tell Penelope that Odysseus is back, but she's still a little weary, so she tests him. After she has him cleaned up, Penelope says to one of the servants, I want you to get fresh linens on the bed and move it out here. Odysseus immediately gets angry. He's like, wait a second, you can't move our bed. See, when I was building this house, there was this great olive tree, and I built our bedroom around it and then used that tree as a post of the bed, so you can't move it. Penelope throws her arms around him and she embraces him finally and says, forgive me for not believing you right away. I was always scared that some phantom would come and pretend to be you. And Odysseus does forgive her, so they have a happy ending. I forget what I think Odysseus sails off the edge of the world because flat earthers. So I don't know how happy the ending was.